Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to tell you about the fate of carbohydrates in metabolism. Okay, so starting from the intestine, when we ingest our dietary carbohydrates, okay, then they will be digested into the monosaccharides, and the common monosaccharides that will be digested or that are metabolized in our body are fructose, galactose, glucose. Okay, these are the most common monosaccharides. So once the dietary carbohydrates are digested into individual monosaccharides, they will be absorbed from the lumen of the intestine into the mucosal cell and then into the capillaries of portal circulation. That means these monosaccharides are absorbed into the portal circulation. From there they reach liver. Okay, so in liver, all the monosaccharides, fructose, galactose and glucose, they enter inside the liver, right? And other monosaccharides like fructose and galactose, they will also be converted into glucose, and glucose will be further metabolized. So glucose is the central molecule in carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, as I have mentioned earlier also in my previous class, okay, where I have also mentioned about the absorption process, how they are absorbed from the lumen into the mucosal cell, and from mucosal cell into the capillaries of portal circulation, then into the systemic circulation, then into the specific tissues. So they are different transporters. Okay, so once glucose is inside the liver, so what are its possible fates? So its possible fates will be, first they can be converted into pentose sugar, and the pathway regarding this conversion is HMP shunt pathway, hexose monophosphate shunt pathway, or pentose phosphate pathway, right? These are interconvertible process. That means ribose sugar also they can be converted back to glucose. Okay, and glucose can also be converted to glucouronic acid by glucouronic acid pathway. Similarly, it can be converted to glycogen by the process called glycogenesis. Okay, so if there is excess glucose, then it will be stored in the form of glycogen. Now, the major pathway for this glucose metabolism, okay, the major pathway for energy metabolism from glucose is its oxidation through glycolysis to convert into pyruvate. Okay, so by glycolysis, glucose will be converted into pyruvate, and then pyruvate will be converted into acetyl coenzyme, and this acetyl coenzyme will go into TCA cycle in the mitochondria for the production of energy. Okay, besides, after liver, okay, glucose also be transported to different tissues. For that purpose, glucose is first transported into the systemic circulation. Okay, it comes into the systemic circulation, then they are taken up by these different tissues with the help of specific transporters. So let's talk about adipose tissue. Okay, I forgot to mention the arrow. So this glucose first transfers to adipose tissue. What happens in adipose tissue? Glucose can be converted to pyruvate by glycolysis. Pyruvate can be converted to acetyl coenzyme. Let's stop here once. Okay. Also, glucose can be converted into pentose sugar. Okay, it can be converted into pentose sugar like ribose and ribulose, again by the HMP shunt pathway. Okay, in that process, in that HMP shunt pathway, there is the production of NADPH. NADP plus will be reduced into NADPH, and this NADPH will again be required for the formation of fatty acids from acetyl coenzyme. So in adipose tissue, you can say glucose has 2 or 3 fates. Okay, for example, glucose can be converted into pentose sugar, glucose can be converted into pyruvate, and further it can be converted into fatty acids. Okay, so that is about adipose tissue. Now let's come to brain. Okay, what happens in brain cells? In brain cells, glucose will be oxidized to pyruvate by glycolysis, and pyruvate will be converted into acetyl coenzyme. Then again acetyl coenzyme through TCA cycle, it will be converted into CO2 and H2O, and this provides energy. Now let me remind you, this is the major source of energy for glucose. Brain exclusively utilizes glucose for energy purpose, and this is how it obtains energy from glucose. Okay, so this is the fate of glucose in brain cells. Now let's come to muscle cells. Okay, as we know, when there is excess of glucose, glucose will be converted into glycogen. That process occurs in two tissues, two organs, that is in the liver and in the muscles. Okay, so in muscles also glucose will be converted into glycogen by the process of glycogenesis. Then when the glucose is to be utilized, it will be utilized in the form of glucose 1-phosphate. Now glucose 1-phosphate will be isomerized to glucose 6-phosphate, and then it will go glycolysis, and then after glycolysis, suppose it is converted to pyruvate. But in muscles, when you are doing vigorous exercise or you are contracting and expanding your muscles continuously, then if there is anaerobic condition, then that pyruvate will be converted into lactate. Okay, now this lactate now can come back to the systemic circulation, and it can come back to the liver. In liver, lactate will again be converted into pyruvate, and pyruvate will be converted into glucose by the process of gluconeogenesis. Now this conversion of glucose and lactate between muscle, blood, the systemic circulation and liver, this cycle, okay, this cycle is known as Cori's cycle. Okay, what happens in Cori's cycle? Okay, this after glycolysis, glucose is converted into lactate. This lactate comes into the circulation, then it reaches liver. In the liver, again lactate will be converted back to glucose by the process of gluconeogenesis, and this glucose will again come back to the circulation. It will again go back to the muscle cells. Okay, so this cycle is known as Cori's cycle. Now let's talk about the last fate of glucose. Okay, in RBC. In RBC, glucose, okay, this glucose, it is from the systemic circulation. This glucose comes to the RBC, it again undergoes glycolysis, and it will be converted into lactate. Okay, since it do not have mitochondria to undergo TCA cycle or further oxidation, so it will be converted into lactate, and this lactate can also again go join the Cori's cycle. Okay. Also, there is one bypass step in this RBC. Okay, so that leads to a generation of 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate, which is a very important regulatory compound. So we'll come to talk about that in our next chapter, where I will be talking about the regulation of glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. Okay, so thank you. Please like and subscribe this channel. I'll be very thankful to you.